Hello and welcome to Back at Camp, Mojave County's only outdoor television show. I'm your host, Don Martin, and on today's show we're going to talk about fishing. It's springtime, it's time to get ready to go fishing. I got a guy here that's going to share a lot of tips on how to catch more fish this spring and this summer. So don't go away, we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Welcome back to Back at Camp. I'm your host, Don Martin. Now listen, it's springtime in Arizona. When I say springtime, it's February, okay? And in most places back east, they're still ice fishing. Here in Arizona, hey, we're already fishing. We're fishing for bass and at our local Colorado River lakes. We're going to give you some tips today that'll help you go fishing right now and help you catch fish. I have with me Mark Daley. Now Mark is a longtime angler. He's been on the show before, and he knows a lot about fishing. Mark, thank you for coming. Okay, now Mark, tell me, here it is February. A lot of guys are I'm still wearing a coat, but there's guys down there fishing on the Colorado River. They're catching stripers, they're catching smallmouth, they're catching largemouth. So, just because it's February doesn't mean they shouldn't be out there fishing. So, what are you going to talk about? What are you going to tell us about today?
Well, all kids like fishing.
Sure.
Little kids, little girls,
big girls.
Oh yeah.
Big
My
girls
wife
like
likes
to
it
fish
too. The way to teach them how to cast correctly, they all know they're short, so they always want to cast overhand like this.
Sure.
So worst thing they can do, because they'll be hooking themselves in the back, or the kid walking behind them in the back, or their father walking in the back, or the bushes in the back, or something. So what we figured out is we teach them by using a rod like this. Now, they call these 202s, 303s, and all this. All it is a basic Zebco 33 reel. They've been around for God knows how many years.
Longer than you and I.
This rod here, yeah, I know. This rod here is a little long for a little kid, but you can buy the shorter version of the same thing at places like Walmart and Kmart and Big Five, all these places.
Sure.
It's only about this long. This one would be better for a 10 or 12-year-old kid. What you do is you take a white bucket like we have here, and you set it out. Maybe for a little kid, you maybe set it 10 feet. And then teach them to throw this rubber casting bubble into the bucket.
Don't give them a lure with a hook on it.
No, or something that they can,
that
they can break. Yeah, like break a window or something. So this is rubber and it won't break anything, or a large bobber. It would do the same thing.
Sure.
And teach them to cast underhand like this.
Just flip it out.
So they can flip it out to the wrist. You would be amazed how quickly little 5, 6-year-old kids catch on.
Yeah. Now.
And they get wound around.
Yeah, there you go.
And pretty soon, if you set it out 10 feet, they'll be making every one. Then you set it out 20. And it doesn't take very long at all before they're nailing it at 20 feet. My buddy's too little.
So instead of having them go like this, and the thing ends up in the neighbor's yard or hooks a dog or whatever, you get them. You're going to want them to go underhanded.
They just cast
use the
like
wrist
this, underhand,
and just flip towards that bucket.
That's right.
And just let them do it repetitively till they get it down. It gives them an idea when to release the line
and everything else.
Now this is kind of interesting. We're talking about doing this for kids. You know what? I've seen professional bass anglers, when they talk about flipping, they stand on the front of the boat and they put buckets out in front of them, because when you're down in places like Topak where you're trying to hit, 2 or 3 inch hole between two limbs, the way those guys do it is they stand in their boats and they flip it underhand. And they'll flip till they get it, because the presentation is so important that the lure, when they're bass fishing, doesn't go splash. They want to put it in there so it just touches and sinks down. Theoretically, the bass is laying underneath there. He's an ambusher, and here comes this jig or whatever comes floating down, and he hits it. So what Mark's telling you is this is a great technique for kids to teach them how to cast. They're using their wrist, and they're with these closed face reels. Let them do that, and then move it out a little further, and further and further away. And pretty soon you'll be surprised how accurate the kids are going to be. So when you put them in a boat, or you put them on a bank and you say, okay, Billy, you need to throw that over there by that tree, Billy's, instead of throwing it out there and tangling it up, well, Billy will get up there and go pitch an underhand, throw it at the base of the tree, and you're good to go. That's a great tip. And like I say, you guys that are bass fishermen, you may know this, you may not, but get it in the front of your boat. Pull your boat out there, get you a bucket out there. A lot of guys will start off with a bucket, and then they get smaller and smaller and smaller. So when you're really good, you get a guy like Shane Moline on the front of a boat, I'll guarantee you he's going to throw it in a 3-inch circle at 20 feet, 3 inches, and it'll go in quiet. Won't be a big splash. So great technique, great thing to know, whether you're a young angler, old angler, your grandpa like me trying to teach that kid how to fish. That's a great technique. Okay, what else you got for me?
Well, let's see. Here's a spinnerbait.
Okay.
Now, a lot of times you want to change baits.
Sure.
You want to do it in a hurry.
You want to get a different color?
Whatever.
You know, sometimes maybe, you know, the white's not working, throw chartreuse. Okay.
Well, if you look real close on here, there's a little piece of rubber tubing. Let's see if I can take it off here. That holds the eye. See? Now you can have
a snap swivel.
A snap swivel on there to change if you want to put on a crankbait right away. It takes seconds to open a snap swivel and put on the crankbait. That little piece of rubber tubing, I never go anywhere without, there's probably a 6-inch piece in my tackle box.
Sure, yeah.
Works on your spinnerbait.
So what that does, it keeps your on the snap
line
swivel, so
right where it belongs.
It keeps it right where you want it, and then it facilitates a quick release.
Now here's another piece that's on a trailer hook. You have to be really careful when you do this. I use a vise at home. I rig up like 3 or 4 of these like this. Mm-hmm. You put the big hook in the vise, and then you take a pair of pliers, put the piece of rubber tubing over the top, and then put it over the hook, so you don't wind up trying to dig the hook out of your finger or something like that, which I've done 1,000 times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you learn after.
Now, what's the purpose of that trailer hook on a spinnerbait?
A lot of times they'll hit short. You'll be rolling it through the weeds and everything, and all of a sudden they'll start hitting short, and they'll be tearing the legs off of your trailer hook and stuff like that. Right. They won't get the big hook in their mouth, so you put the trailer hook on the back.
Well, and that piece of plastic on there, that holds that trailer hook. Holds it up. Show them on this. Yeah. Now, you don't want that hook just flopping around down there, because the idea is you want this thing fishing weedless, right? Yeah. So you see how that's holding that up right there, and it keeps it parallel, so it's not flopping around, so it's going to get tangled.
It'll move back and forth, though.
Yeah, but it's going to hold that thing pretty straight. Yep. And when the bass comes up, and if he hits it short, he just, it's funny because we talk about a spinnerbait. What is a spinnerbait? When's the last time a bass actually saw a true spinnerbait? I mean, what do they think it is?
A little bunch of shad.
Yeah, it imitates a ball of shad that's going through the water. They're fluctuating. They're going up and down. So he comes up there. His instinct is to come in there, bang. He's going to crash into that school and going to try to cripple and kill stuff. So this spinnerbait it's a good reaction bait. It's a good bait to use in the spring down here. When this water warms up, you start throwing this next to cover, and you'll catch bass. That little thing he's talking about, the tubing though, holding that stinger hook out there, will increase your hookups tremendously. Okay.
But like I said, you have to be real careful doing that. Now, this is the most important thing in all of my stuff that I have on my boat. All these are dryer sheets.
Okay.
All the women know what they are. Most of the men. I don't know what is in these, and all of them work, whether it's Great Value or Bounce dryer sheets or whatever. They all work.
It's a dryer sheet. It's for putting
for
in your clothes.
It makes them smell nice.
Good. Yeah.
You just fold it over like this and put it on the back of your hat, and
little paper
then you hold it on with a paper clip.
Oh, for gosh sakes.
And I'm telling you, the bugs don't come near you. Huh. You can put it on the front of the brim. You can put it on the front of your T-shirt.
Sure.
or anything, and they won't come near you.
Wow.
There was a woman down there that was fishing with her little boy, and he was screeching and squalling and making all kinds of noise. And I said, "What's the matter?" She said, "The gnats are driving us crazy." And I said, "Come here." And I took him over there, and I put one of these on his shirt, and I put one on the back of his hat, like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave her a couple, and she put one on her tank top and stuff, and on her hat. And she come over to me about 10 minutes later, and she said, "I can see the gnats flying around, but they don't come near me."
Wow.
I said, "I told you that." I said, "Another thing you do is you take like a small spritz bottle, spray bottle,
Mm-hmm.
and you put like a cap of dish
Soap?
stuff in there, and like a cap full of like vegetable oil or something, and then fill the rest up with water. If you see gnats flying around you or something, you just spray them. The vegetable oil and the soap, they can't fly. They fall down in the bottom of your boat, or they fall down on the ground, or whatever it is, and done deal.
Wow.
They don't bother you.
Now, folks, I'm going to tell you something. If you fish towpock in the summer, if you're fishing for catfish down there at night, they will eat you up.
alive.
So that would be a super, super tip for you guys that want to go catfishing at towpock in the summer. Now, we don't have a lot of bugs up on Lake Mead where I do a lot of fishing. We just don't. But, boy, that's a great tip. You could take 2 or 3 of those things, put them in a plastic Ziploc bag, throw them in the boat, and man, if you go somewhere and the bug's starting to get you, you got her done. Now, Mark, we want to take a little break here before we get going. We got a lot more tips for you guys that you're going to want to stay tuned for to make your fishing experience a whole lot more fun. So don't go away. We're going to be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Box isn't very old. I put those holes there, and they're on the bottom and everything else. You can see there's a hole.
Welcome back to Back at Camp. I'm your host, Don Martin. I got Mark Daley with me today, and we're sharing some fishing tips with you. Now, Mark, we've talked about some of the dryer sheet things, which I think is phenomenal. Give me some other tips that folks out there ought to be thinking about using.
I confess that I looked for a tarnished spinnerbait blade.
Okay.
I don't have any. Because I use this stuff all the time. And for years, I've used this. This is for polishing chrome wheels and stuff, and your grill on your car.
Sure.
Well, Neverdull also works on spinnerbait blades.
Oh.
You just take your spinnerbait blade and pull off a little piece and rub it. The can I had before this, I had for like 15 years. It works like a charm, believe me.
And you want to keep your blades really bright because remember, it's throwing off the light. The light's reflecting off of it. It's imitating bait fish. So you want those blades to be really, really bright. Okay?
Now, spray scent. You take a sandwich bag, little plastic bag.
Oh, we buy that stuff, and it's expensive.
Woo. So you take your spinnerbait or whatever, and put it in the plastic bag and spray the scent in the plastic bag.
Instead of holding it out, get it all over your boat.
Get it all over everything.
And once you get it in your carpet, let me give you a little advice. That stuff don't come out.
It don't. So that's just enough, and then pretty soon you'll have enough of it in the bag where you just dunk your lure in there.
So little plastic sandwich bag.
Right.
Okay.
One of my absolute best lure retrievers is nothing but a broomstick. Oh, I hit you with this. And a cup hook.
Huh.
You can take it like this, and you run your line through it, and then run it down the line, get it to your lure, and just twist it. And the lure pops right out. Now, I can reach almost to the ceiling even sitting down. I've thrown worms up in trees and crankbaits up in trees and stuff all the time. This gets them right out.
I'll get you off there.
Now, to keep from getting what I just did, you cover your hooks with packing peanuts.
Now we're using not packing peanuts here, but on the show.
I forgot to bring mine.
Forgot to bring them, but any kind of styrofoam, and you fold it up and you put it over them hooks, and what it does, it keeps those hooks from hooking the boat. You know, you're out there fishing, you're changing poles. Each one of them's got a crankbait with 2 big cranks on it. I know when we're striper fishing on Lake Mead, you know, we got poles laying around with them big giant treble hooks on them. Wow, what an idea. Put a bag of those packing peanuts in there, put put them on those treble hooks, lay the pole down, you're hook free. You're not going to get stuck.
Keep going.
All right.
Use old jumper cables. I use this all the time. You hook them on the cleat of your boat and then hook them on a tree branch hanging over.
Now listen.
Done deal, no
if
anchor.
you go out there on the lake without jumper cables, you're
Bad.
an idiot.
Yeah.
Because sooner or later you're going to get a dead battery, or you're going to meet somebody with a dead battery. Everybody's got jumper cables. Heck, I never even thought of this. How many times you've been fishing and you see a spot and you want to stop? Now, you can pay $3,000 for those new pole things on the back of the boats that holds the boat, or put your jumper cables and clip it to a tree, and you're going to stop right there, and you can do the same thing. So, and everybody ought to have a pair of jumper cables in their boat, that's for sure.
Now, this bungee cord looking thing is the exact same one that holds the latch, that holds the cover on the motor on my boat.
Really?
The spare one also holds this is my utility box here with everything in it that I need. If something breaks, I can fix it. This holds it closed. So I also have a spare if I lose the one or it breaks, it's holding my latch tight. Now, if you look at this, I don't know if Dan can pick this up or not, because there's all kinds of holes in the top and the bottom of this box. This box isn't very old. I put those holes there, and they're on the bottom and everything else. You can see there's a hole. If you've ever opened your tackle box and you had a jig and it got all, the paint got all gooey and all that kind, it's because of mold and mildew. When you drill all these little holes in the top and bottom of your box, it gives the air a chance to circulate in there. No more mold and mildew. Here's another one. This is my wife's idea. This box is probably 15 years old. The little clips on the front, they're long, bro. Gone.
Break them all the time.
Been gone. This is the top of a pair of nylons.
Pantyhose.
Pantyhose.
Yeah.
Yeah, nylons. And all she did was cut it off. Now this stuff doesn't rot or nothing happens to it. It's nylon.
Huh.
These things are probably 10 years old.
I'll be darned. They still.
That she gave me, and they're still there.
Wow.
Okay, what do we got? Oh yeah, here. We'll do this one. If you're trying to put line on your rod.
Oh, this is a special one, because we change line all the time at Striper Hunters when we're fishing in the summer, and it's a nightmare when you're trying to change lines. So he's got a technique here to show this, and here's what we want to do. We're going to show you how to change line now without going through all that problems of flipping the spools over back and forth. There's some people that can really appreciate that.
All you do is put the line through the book. It's right through the middle of the book.
Here's your spool of,
and there's the spool.
Line. Here's your just
sitting right there. All you do is turn it. What it does is it puts tension on the line, so it holds it tight on the spool. Now, a lot of times I've been fishing, and because you go jigging and stuff, you know, the line will get loose on the spool. I'll put one of those casting bubbles on there and fling it way out there, and then run it back through the book, because that tightens it up.
On your reel.
Yeah, and it doesn't get tangled.
Boy, how many times have we flipped spools over trying to reload reels with fresh line?
Thousands of times.
Jeez. And now all I've got to do is just run it through a book.
Oh, those are your crappie. Okay, packing peanuts. Crappie fishing. Mark your line about every 5 feet with a Sharpie. I always have a Sharpie or two in that thing. That way you'll know you're fishing the right depth. When you see the crappie on your fish finder, you'll know if you're at the right depth or not.
So if you got a fish finder, you're at Alamo Lake and you're looking for crappie, and it says the crappie are at 12 feet. What he's telling you, you know, you're trying to figure out, well, am I fishing the right depth? Well, if you mark your line every 6 feet or 5 feet, you look at it and you say, okay, I need to throw out to the second Sharpie marker, and that's going to let it pendulum right down to where they're going to be. Because remember, crappie always feed up. Crappie will not look down and go after a lure.
Their eyes are in the top of their head.
Up here. So crappie's always looking up. So you want that bait or that lure above those crappies, and by marking your line, you know exactly the depth to throw it so you don't go down underneath them.
Duct tape.
Gotta have
Never leave home without it. Ever. Especially when you're going fishing. You wouldn't believe how many different times you fixed, I don't know how much different stuff
with
a roll of duct tape. Okay? This,
What do you do with it? What are some of the things that you can use duct tape for?
I fixed radiator hoses on cars to get home more than once.
Huh.
Now this, I used to use glass jars, but they kept breaking. This is just a regular plastic mayo jar.
Right.
You throw about a dozen minnows in there or so, and then you fill it full of water. You dangle it over the side of your boat, down in the water. And I don't know if Dan can see this, but right between my fingers, there's marks on it for a Sharpie. Now you know what depth you are. So if you see the crappie are at 6 feet, you go down to the second mark, and you're at 6 feet. Then you just pull it up a little.
What are you using that? The minnows are swimming around there? You just use that for a tractor?
Yeah. There's all kinds of holes in the top of it, and the smell comes out. Crappie come running over. You can actually watch them when the line is in the water. You can actually watch the line jump because the crappie come up and hit the side of the jar. They don't know what it is. They're trying to get the minnow.
Trying to get the minnow.
Then you take your regular minnow lure or a rod like this one, and you set it's got a slip sinker on it with a little piece of wire, and you set that at about 5 feet maybe. If the fish are at 6 feet, you set this at about 5 feet because, like you said, they fish up.
Wow.
Right alongside of the jar.
Now let me tell you another little use for that little jar setup. We use that to disperse chum on Lake Mead in our striper boat.
Yep.
You take those plastic jars. Now what I do is, of course, you want to drill holes all over them, and you want to put pretty good size holes, 3/8, maybe a 1/2 inch hole in that jar. You fill it full of chum, you freeze it. Then when you go fishing at night, hang that over the side of your boat. Yep. As it thaws out, the current is going like that, it's washing the chum out. You have chum constantly going under your boat. Guess what the stripers do? They got a great sense of smell. They smell that stuff, and here they come, and it's game on.
Game on. Now this, last year I figured this one out. You take another broomstick, and you take a screw eye. This goes in my rod holder on my boat.
Right.
And then the line, eventually, there's a cleat right next to it so you can tie the line off. You set this over whatever you want, like 3 feet underwater or whatever it is, out of the side of your boat so it's hanging out there. Now you put a rod on each side of it. And I'm telling you, it works.
Well, we know about the
really
chum.
Well.
Anybody that's ever fished with us on Striper Hunters knows the value of chum and knows, you know, we got a big 5-gallon bucket of it, and I call it Don's Secret Sauce. And if you get it on you, it's bad.
It really
One more
works.
tip, and then we got to wrap it up. Real quick, give me something really good.
When you go crappie fishing, you do whatever you have to do to catch one fish. Then you take a contraption like this, which is a bobber, and it's got about 10 or 15 feet of line on it, and a real small hook. I can get this out without sticking myself. This is like a number 8 hook, just a plain hook, you know. You hook this in the dorsal fin. At the back of the dorsal fin, there's a little cartridge-looking little place on a crappie. You hook the hook in there, and then you just let him go back in the water. Because crappie all school up.
Yep, they're school fish.
The same size. So if you're catching some that are like half the size of my hand, you don't want them. If you catch one that's, say, 10 or 12 inches or something, you're going to want that boy. You know, a pound and a half, maybe 2 pounds or something. You let him swim he'll swim right back to his school, and then you just sit there
and you know where they are.
And cast with a little road runner, and you know exactly where they're at. You know, these are all Gary Garland tips, by the way. He taught me this stuff years ago.
And then when you get ready to go, you just go get your bobber, and you still got that first fish.
Then you use the cup hook looking thing, and you walk over there, and you pull up the bobber,
back and say thank you.
And then you very gently, you just pull him back until you can net him, and then you put him in with the rest of his buddies, and go home and have chocolate.
All right, Mark, fantastic show. Thank you so much, folks. We hope you learned something from this show today. Get out there and go fishing. You're going to be. You know, it's springtime. It's time to go fishing. Go to Alamo, catch a lot of crappie. You catch some bass down on the Colorado River. So until next week, this is your host, Don Martin, saying keep your fishing line fresh, keep your firearms oiled, keep your bowstrings waxed, and we'll see you next week back at camp.